Got some good speeches coming up. As an American it's an American pastime to ridicule politics and politicians. Late-night comedians make a living that way. They say politics is just show business for ugly people.
You're the exception. That was sweet.
They say every state has 2 senators so that one can be the designated driver. That you can lead a man to Congress, but you can't make him think. The comedians say crime doesn't pay as well as politics. But I'm not going to ridicule them tonight. Some people blame Congress for spending too much money. Not me. If I had billions of dollars at my disposal, I'd be irresponsible too. All right, no, tonight I'm going to try to defend Democratic officials. I secretly admire them. They have to be brave and to want to straighten out the confused mess this country is in. Elected officials are my heroes. Since we're a democracy and a free people, things are always a little messy. But here we are, a group of freedom-loving people trying to get along without killing each other and having one misstep after another. Congress is dysfunctional. Washington is gridlocked and does nothing. The states are trying to pick up some of the issues that should be at the federal level. Gay marriages, immigration laws, gun control, marijuana laws, they have all drifted down to state, city, and even county level. And if it keeps up, my homeowners association is going to ban marijuana. We have 11 million illegal people in the country, and we can't decide what to do with them. Republican politics dictate that you oppose whatever the president supports. So not only do they have all those things handed down to them from the feds, our Democratic elected officials are trying to represent their constituents. And their constituents are animal rights people, vegetarian, Tea Party, NRA, hundreds of different religious groups, atheists, old and young, Texans and New Yorkers, poor and rich, more poor than rich, black, brown, red, white, pink, green people, civil and uncivil, wed and unwed people, compassionate and selfish people, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarian, Green, growth and no growth, drunk and sober, happy and sad, lovers and haters, those for civil unions and those who can't spell heterosexual, every nationality on earth, fools and fanatics, mom and pop businesses, corporations, heroes, criminals, educated and uneducated. There are mentalists, temperamentalists, fundamentalists, and environmentalists. There are those who favor mining and Red Lady, and there are Crested Butte citizens. Democrats who have more questions than answers, and Republicans who have more answers than questions. People trying to hide themselves and people trying to find themselves. There are those who ignore politics, and there are those who can't ignore politics no matter how much you'd like to. Liberals feel unworthy of their possessions, and conservatives who feel they deserve everything they've stolen. There are people who are right, and there are people who are radical right. There are chauvinists who want to control women's lives, and there are feminists who are going to elect Hillary Clinton President of the United States in 2016. poll and showed 90% of Americans would vote for a woman if she was qualified. I'm glad they put the qualified in there because that eliminates Sarah Palin and Michelle Obama. Anyone who says this is a man's world is really out of date. This past cell date is long past. And then, where would men be without women? And the answer is, in the Garden of Eden eating watermelon. There are those who are opposed to premarital sex, and there are those who say it's not premarital if you're not going to get married. Democrats have dirty minds. There are those who hate losing the war in Vietnam and those who hate losing the war on poverty. And one of the strange things about life is that the poor who need the money most are the ones who don't have it. And we can't figure out why. There are politicians who only serve one term. And there's Ellen Harriman. Did she get it?
She's gone tonight.
She's been on city council for years and years. I guess, all right. There are people who want good health care. And then there are Republican representatives who have tried to repeal Obamacare some 38 times now. There are those who want to live like a Republican. And there are those who realize that in order to live like a Republican, you have to vote for a Democrat. There are people who believe in science, and there are those who can't separate science from fiction. And there are those who wonder what gives us the right to wreck this poor planet of ours. When are we going to listen to them? And finally, there are citizens who have causes that they would die for. Hopefully, no causes they would kill for. I think elected officials are heroes for trying to keep all of those people living together peacefully and with a fairly decent standard of living. I'm optimistic, I admire them, and I think we will prevail. Now, Franklin Delano Roosevelt took over leadership of our country when it was even worse than ours is now. In 1932, 1/3 of our nation was ill-housed, ill-fed, and out of a job. Along comes a man who was not suited for the work. He was from a Republican family. He was one of the richest presidents we've ever had, and yet he became the greatest president of the 20th century and maybe our greatest president. He never went to public school. He had private tutoring all the time. He was what they in the old days called truly American. That meant he had 12 relatives on the Mayflower. I don't know how he got that. A trivia question. How many presidents were related to Franklin Roosevelt?
11.
No way.
11.
7.
You're very, very close. I have 10. I hope I'm right, but you may be. I don't know. Washington, John and Quincy Adams, Madison, Van Buren, William and Benjamin Harrison, Taylor, Grant, and Taft. Who I left out? Oh, Theodore Roosevelt. He was not an intellectual or a scholar. The people working around him said they never saw him reading a book on government or any of that. He was not a great student. He went to Harvard. He finally passed the bar exam and he quit Harvard before he got a degree. He had a C average at Harvard. Winston Churchill said, meeting Roosevelt was like opening a bottle of champagne. He had the most remarkable, I guess, aura about him of anyone, and all of the world's leaders mention that. He loved a good time. And one of the occasions when George I and Queen Elizabeth made their first trip to America, they stayed at the White House. Eleanor, his wife, had charge of the house, and she had hired a professor out of Fordham, I think, to cook healthy meals and cheap meals. And they didn't have a big banquet for him because Eleanor said the people are poor, we're going to give you food that they would eat. Well, Roosevelt hated it. He had to smuggle in food. He actually sent out his secretary for hot dogs, and the King and Queen of England and Roosevelt had hot dogs after the big banquet. He appointed the first woman as a cabinet member. The GDP, not the GOP, gained by double digits each of the 12 years he was in office. So what a remarkable, now he started pretty much at the bottom, but again, I think it tripled in those 12 years. His first words when after he was sworn in were, "This great nation will endure, as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only fear we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. We are living with technology and now many different problems, but we will endure, we will advance, we will go forward if you just vote Democratic." Thank you. The first thing he did, though, was repeal prohibition. So you can